welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. I'm April Atmansky, and I'm here today with...
Justin the Clue.
And Colin Cunningham.
And this week we did a Sean Connery theme. That's the theme of the week.
Back to hairy back.
Is that the thing that you associate the most with Sean Connery?
It's a hairy back.
No, a hairy chest.
Hairy everything.
Hairy accent?
Everybody knows his accent. His Sean Connery.
Yeah, he's known to being not able to hide his accent.
I don't think he even tries.
I believe he has probably in film history, but I can't remember where.
We got to go back.
But I read a quote from John Boorman today. Mm-hmm. He was saying, because they became good friends on our first movie, and he said, he asked him why didn't he try different accents, and he said, John, if I did a different accent, I wouldn't remember who I was.
So he'd be like, who am I? Like Jackie Chan.
Part of his identity.
Why? Who's this Russian accent coming out of my mouth? I've got to kill it.
Wait a minute. Didn't he do a Russian accent in a submarine movie?
Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October?
He does not, because they speak Russian in that film, and then at a certain point they're like, screw this, and everybody switches to English.
But even his Russian is spoken in his Scottish accent.
Of course, but he can't help it. So the first movie we watched is the very well-known movie Zardoz. Was requested several times, and I had never seen it. I'd seen clips of it because it's fairly popular. I think people know it. It's kind of in the cultural zeitgeist, I would say.
Everybody would probably just know the picture of Sean Connery in his costume for the film was him standing on a beach, which, how would you describe it, Justin?
He's wearing a thong, a red thong, and he's holding a pistol, and there's a flying head in the background.
And then he's got red bandoliers, bullet bandoliers.
I mean, it's when you think of silly movie, it's the first thing that always comes up. People are always like, Zardoz, mostly from people who haven't seen the film.
No, anytime I've seen people post the picture on Twitter or whatever, it's just funny on its own. It's like, look, Sean Connery's in a funny outfit.
Funny name too. So, I think people maybe don't know because the rumors are true. This is not a bad movie. It's actually pretty good.
What are we doing talking about it then?
It is a weird movie. Mm-hmm. It's definitely got a lot of weird elements, and it does have some elements that are in other bad movies that we watch, but it all kind of comes together very well, and it's a very watchable movie, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew nothing about it really. I didn't really know the plot at all. I knew there was a kind of Wizard of Oz twist, but that turns out to be not that important in the grand scheme of things. But watching it the first time last night, we turned to April and it's like, I kind of actually like that.
Yeah.
You're a little bit scared. You're like, oh, April, I like this. They're going to come for me.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I think that it's more of known now as kind of a cult movie than a famously bad movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that a lot of things go against it, which is mostly the outfit and the weird name and a giant floating head that talks in a crazy voice, which is just the beginning of the movie. It goes way different places after that.
It's super weird. And Boorman says that this actually came out of because he was making a Lord of the Rings film and the budget was going to be so massive that they're like, okay, you need to do something else. And he was coming off Deliverance, which was a massive hit. So he basically had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. So he's like, I'm going to make this big metaphysical sci-fi thing. And the story goes that he told the Fox executive, you have 2 hours to read the script and you have to say yes or no. And that's all I want to hear from you.
You have to say yes or no within 20 minutes.
Yes, after reading the script.
Which is probably the craziest script he ever read. Because I was surprised that this wasn't based on a pulpy sci-fi fantasy novel. I was shocked to hear that he wrote this script from
written
scratch.
by Michael Moorcock. Elric the Unready. You never heard of Michael Moorcock?
No.
He wrote hundreds of novels, usually broken up into 3 to 5. So it would be Hawk Moon and stuff like that. And it just was endless. The Eternal Champion.
Did they ever make any movies based on these books?
They did not, but they tried really. Elric. Have you ever heard that name?
Elric, no.
It's a white albino swordsman. That's a big famous fantasy character. Maybe it was more of a UK thing. I have a lot of his books on my shelf. Yeah.
No, I've never heard of him.
He's famous for being a novelist that would write a book in 3 days. And then he had novels. He had it all planned out, and but he would also write these trite fantasy novels, and also these really weird metaphysical James Bond parodies of a character named Jerry Cornelius. And there is a movie based on him that came out in the 70s. Yeah,
this is great.
Wow.
It's the first I've heard about this.
So this is the vein that Zardoz is
smoking up very 70s, 70s
is
sci-fi.
like dripping off of this movie.
Yeah, it gets very like
especially in the
psychedelic at times and very trippy.
You gotta turn the black light on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as like kind of like bad movie things, I felt like the acting in this movie, everybody was like, all the main characters were good, but like I didn't like the extras were pretty cheesy. A lot of them, like anybody who didn't have like a speaking part, essentially, I was like,
you mean all the kind of like dirty people that were trying to get into the force
the
field?
crazy cult people, like they're all kind of pulling these weird faces and stuff. Like, and I'm trying to find things that like I don't like about this movie because I actually really liked it.
We should set it up a little bit that the movie starts with a bunch of men in red thongs are in front of a giant floating skull that says "Guns are good, penis bad," and then it vomits a bunch of guns.
Yeah.
And then Sean Connery picks the gun up, and just to let you know, this is going to be a commentary on entertainment. He points the gun at the camera like the Great Train Robbery and pulls the trigger.
That was cool, and actually that happened. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Like I love this movie.
Very
You weren't
stylish.
like, like the train coming at you.
No, I was like checking my chest, and I was like, April, call 911.
Yeah.
I've been shot.
Like, to be honest, there's a lot of twists and turns in this movie, so I don't even know. It would probably take too long to try and describe the plot.
I mean, basically, it's a society of people who can live forever,
The
live
Eternals.
live in a bubble, and Sean Connery, who's like they call him like a brutal,
The brutal, yeah.
He's a brutal.
it kind of breaks into their world and learns about what's going on, and that this perfect society isn't really perfect at all, man.
Yeah,
they know everything, but they're miserable. It's like the internet.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, speaking of that, it's very funny. It's like they have these little communication rings that they speak to, and they speak to this thing called the Tabernacle.
Oh, Tabernacle.
Which is like this very advanced AI that keeps them alive. You know, if they kill themselves or die, it regenerates them.
I'm a diamond man. That's what I'm in.
And they all have diamonds in their foreheads, so they can speak to the
That's
Tabernacle.
how they're part of. This,
Yeah, but these little
'cause they
rings is pretty much just like Siri. You know,
Totally
watching this,
is.
it's like Siri. What is that?
Yeah,
You
but
know?
Siri still doesn't give me a hologram projection.
Yeah, it's true.
And the movie does tons of fun stuff. Like, it's filled with wacky practical effects that are like done very off the cuff, like those rings that project and they keep projecting it on their faces. The giant floating head.
I love the head.
Lots of mirrors. That head looks awesome.
It looks really good, and I was really surprised, like as it was floating in.
It's just a miniature on wires.
Well, I would assume so because none of it looked composited or any of that stuff, and I
Cool.
was really. And this was like 74, I think.
73.
73, 74?
Yeah, Borman was really, he wasn't big into opticals because like even in Exorcist 2 he mostly used really old silent film techniques. Like at one point someone catches fire and they use, back in silent film time, you have the same scene going somewhere else and you mirror the image onto the person.
That's right.
It actually looks really good. I mean, John Borman, people don't talk about it enough, but he was like a huge cinephile. He started a magazine called Projections where it's like directors would interview each other and stuff like, or like journals and stuff like that, and it's great. And so
that's
like
cool.
you can see all those film influences in something like Zardoz.
Yeah, it's very cool, and they shot it like the landscapes are beautiful. And it was shot, I think, close to his house in Ireland, probably like 10 miles away. He said,
He's like, I don't want to leave my house.
want to be like 15 minutes away.
The production value is really good, and it was $1 million, I think I read,
Yeah.
which even in 1972 or 3, that's
Yeah.
not a lot.
No,
right?
especially coming after Deliverance, which was a massive hit. He could basically do whatever he wanted.
Which was funny, but Warner Brothers didn't want to do this movie,
Nope,
so he
they
had to
did
go
not.
to
Well,
20th
Can you
century.
blame them?
Can you
Well, yeah,
imagine
not really.
reading the script?
Well, that's the thing, and that's the one thing that I took away from this, and why I think I really liked it was I just appreciated that you'll never see a movie like this get made these days.
Swinging for the fences.
No way.
Especially not starring my favorite part of the movie, Sean Connery.
Oh, he's great.
Who at the time had just gotten out of being James Bond. I think he had one other role, but he was having difficulty being cast in anything. And originally this was supposed to star Burt Reynolds. And Burt Reynolds got sick and couldn't do it. And I think it would have felt weird if Burt Reynolds was at the center of it, because Burt Reynolds brings an ironic detachment, like a charm to everything he does.
Yeah, like a kind of cockiness and sort of. I know what you mean.
The thing is, like Sean Connery actually his character has that, but it's hard to describe why it's different, because he starts off, he's kind of like the dumb person, and he's like very confused, and then he slowly gets smarter. But he has this kind of like, you guys are crazy, but it's not like I'm better than you. It's more just like I'm curious, and I don't know. It's hard to describe, but he just like nails it.
Yeah,
And
there's
I'm
a
not
particular
sure.
there's a particular tone, I think, to his performance. And like everyone is they're very earnest about their roles, I think, and that's another thing I appreciated.
But
about
I
it.
don't think that Burt Reynolds would be earnest.
No, especially
especially if he gets scared, stupid.
Well, like
like you think
that
the end
outfit, like
the end credits would just be all bloopers, like him and Dom DeLuise slapping one another.
I just got that scared stupid thing.
I saw the gears clanking.
No, it's like the running gag. It's like I cannot see. You can see Burt Reynolds showing up at the costume fitting. He's like, I'm gonna wear what?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like no fucking way.
Yeah, but then Sean Connery. I feel like John Borman, probably the original art, they were all like naked or something like that.
Yeah,
and then
probably.
the studio head's like, you gotta like take that back a little bit. He's like, okay. How
all right.
about just the package?
Yeah, because
Plenty of nudity in this
he
movie.
is not wearing anything in this movie. There was one point at the very end where he actually put on a vest, and then April said like, "Oh, he's wearing a vest now," and then he turned around, and the chest is like cropped out all the way down to his belly button.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of a
I
vest.
think he had like khakis on, but it was still revealing.
Yeah.
April, what was your favorite part?
Well, I think that what I liked about it was the way that that the director, whoever, they kind of overcame the budgetary restrictions. Sometimes better than others, but like the projection stuff, like there's a scene where they have to teach Burt. Oh God, I almost called him Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Connery.
Just call him the bandit.
Zed is Sean Connery's name. They teach him everything in the world that they know, and it's the sequence where they're just like the cult people in this black background, and they just project stuff on their faces. They're like talking and singing, and it just goes on and on and on.
One is the loneliest number.
It was pretty crazy, but I was, and they did that a lot. And also the psychic battles where people are just like waving their fingers at each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Very Boarding House, if you guys remember that movie.
I do. Yeah.
I don't want to go to second space.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, and sometimes it was really cheesy and corny.
Yeah.
But I like cheesy and corny stuff, but they did like a sound effect, like a ding, whenever something like psychic would happen. It was interesting, and like other parts, not so much, like the supposedly indestructible plastic around the plants, which is just like
It's
one step
indestructible.
above saran wrap. But that aside,
That feels like a real like editing note. Like they should be impressed that he
Or
breaks
just-
out of it. Have somebody off screen
Totally.
goes, "It's indestructible."
Exactly. That's because it's like we gotta make it look not cheap, you guys. But yeah, like they did. Some scenes are like, wow, like they have a giant like hall of mirrors or the big like mirror table, like really good production value. But other times, like I could see the limitations, and I could see like the clever ways they were, kind of moving past that.
Well, even like the first time he kind of uses, he finds one of these rings, these Siri rings, and then he's kind of projecting. He asks a question, and then it projects like information on the thing. And he's moving it around, but it can't be coming from his hand. So
yeah.
there's somebody timing
It looked
it
cool.
off screen.
Yeah, they keep like pointing it at their faces, and you'll see like a
Yeah.
close up of an eye.
It's
or
very
something
well
like
done.
that.
It's very effective, and it's just very kind of simple and just
Well,
old
another
school
thing
trickery.
is all you need to do is just have a voiceover, and that's supposed to come from the ring. That's supposed to be this, crystal or this machine talking to him. And it was really great. And like also like I wasn't a huge fan of the costumes of the Eternals just because it was so 1970. Like same year Jesus Christ Superstar came out. Sorry to keep
looks
bringing it
like
up.
that
It's
type
the
of
same
thing.
costumes. It's all these pastels and peasanty things, and I would have preferred if it was a little more futuristic, but it was colorful, and that was nice. The whole movie was rather colorful. and
So are
I
you
liked
saying
that.
you didn't like the costumes of Jesus Christ Superstar?
I liked it in Jesus Christ Superstar, but I wasn't a huge fan of it here.
costumes designed, I think, by John Boorman's wife.
Yes.
I saw, at the very beginning.
It was a family affair every time they made a movie. He would even edit his films in Ireland. Like he wouldn't let
Yeah, that's
it be
right.
done in Hollywood.
Yeah, and like his kid, I think like Charlie Boorman's in this, and like three other kids that he has are in
And
it.
John Borman is the guy that gets shot in the head when he's
on the beach.
making he's like mining for wheat. Whatever
Mining
you call
for
that.
wheat.
The
wheat in the wheat.
Mining for wheat.
He's
Farming wheat.
caught in the wheat mines, the wheat mines of
I can
Kessel.
see April saying it in her eyes. She's like, "Oh no, I'm going down the wrong path. I gotta finish the sentence."
Well, and then she's like, "Wait, I edit this show. I can just cut that out
I
later."
have control. I am
Farming for wheat. Yeah.
What did you say a favorite part, Colin?
I have not. I've yet to be asked.
No. What's your favorite part?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Classic shtick.
I want to say like I love the photography and just some of the vistas and the look of it. I thought was really nice, and I was kind of reading up on the director of photography, like the kind of technique he used for this film. It was like everything had the, like sort of haze filter on it, and apparently he would shoot the camera wide open, the aperture wide open, and with like a mist camera or a haze filter in front of the camera.
Pro Mist, I believe.
Right. And then they said it looked really good in the original film, but once they went to duplicate it for theaters, it looked so bad that the studio forbade any cinematographer from that day forward of using that technique again.
That Pro Mist filter appears a lot in like Vilmos Zsigmond's work, like on McCabe and Mrs. Miller, like Brian De Palma's late 70s and 80s film.
Yeah.
Had that kind of like Pro Mist, like everything's soft.
Yeah, it
look
had
to
a very particular look that I kind of liked, and just the production design I thought was very kind of cool, and it's exactly all the sort of stuff I like from trippy 70s sci-fi.
I mean, this was also shot by the guy who did 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh.
And according to Wikipedia, it says that Stanley Kubrick was a technical advisor, whatever that means.
Yeah, oh, God, somebody commented on that today. I think the only contact that they had was on phone. Like I think John John Boorman may have called him for some advice or something like that. And apparently they became friends just via like phone calls.
Yeah, Kubrick didn't leave his house. He's like, I need to stay inside where it's perfection.
And then John Boorman's like, well, I don't leave my house in Ireland, so looks like we're just going to have to talk on the phone.
Yeah, and we became best phone pals.
Oh. The music was really good too. Lots of good use of the Beethoven Symphony and just general, you had some kind of crazy kind of kooky sci-fi stuff, but also the more symphonic stuff.
So at the end of the day, 2 thumbs up. Not a bad movie.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Even though people assume it is, because they assume it's a big, silly trashterpiece.
I always did.
Well, like the opening scene, which I heard was added later, that said audiences aren't going to understand it with the floating head, not the stone head,
Yeah.
the guy with the painted on beard. He's like explaining what he is and what his people, and I was a little worried. I was like, what the fuck is this?
What you're about to see is an entertainment. It's like the beginning of Dune.
Yeah,
where
that's
it's like,
exactly what I
why
thought.
does it keep fading out and fading back in? Aren't you done yet?
But yeah, like honestly, after like 10 minutes, like once he like starts to really like just discover like these people, and it really, I was hooked. I was interested, and it's a really interesting and good concept.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good like themes going on, and sort of talking points. It's got a lot on its mind and a lot of things that it wants to say.
What would you have done if you had seen Zardoz instead of Face Off as a child, April? Would you have gotten obsessed with this movie, drawing Sean Connery in his thong?
I'm surprised I have avoided it this long, but I'm not so sure. I'm not 100% sure it would have resonated with me as a high schooler.
Right.
It is a very high schooler movie, though. Like look at these heavy themes, man.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Don't you get it? It's like 2001 for the pot smoking crowd.
Yeah, it's like they're almost living. The Eternals are almost living in like a hippie commune or something like that.
It's very hippie commune.
Yeah.
Only they're psychic.
Yeah, and they can't get their dicks hard anymore because they've lost any knowledge of.
It's interesting though how like I love that there's the 3 different factions of the Eternals. There's the people who are just full like cult members essentially, and then you have the apathetics who are just basically people who are so depressed they can't move.
Like me. And then the third one.
Third one is old people.
What are they called?
The Renegades.
The Renegades.
I was
broke
setting
the
that up because I
rules.
was pointing to Colin.
Yeah, because their punishment is they
I'm a cult member.
they are aged 100 years or whatever, and then destined to live in for eternity
with Alzheimer's.
with being senile.
And it looks
I
like
can't
it's
even
a
think of
party. It made me think of like, how does it feel that it's New Year's Eve every hour?
Yeah.
Please kill me.
Please kill me.
with these like cheap streamers like hanging, which I think was intentional because I think it was supposed to look junky.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to mention is what do you call it? Special effects for the face, makeup effects.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got aged people. I mean, not just the very scene at the very end, but the guy where half his face was aged.
Oh, yeah,
I was surprised
Friends.
how good that looked.
That actually looked really good.
I was like, whoa.
Oh, I was gonna say my favorite part could have been when Sean Connery turns into a skeleton at the end.
Did you read they had to shoot that 3 times?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
they kept losing the footage.
Yeah, it's
Sean
like,
Connery keeps stealing
And
it.
they were really
he
mad.
Was, he was so pissed off because it took so long. Because there's one point, I think it's like the frame before they turn into skeletons, where Charlotte Rampling looks like an alien. Like,
She does. And that's why they look so angry, because they were like, they made us do this
this is the
3
third
times.
fucking time, Borman.
I almost want to be like, can't they have like cut their beards or something like that? Like when you go into old age, you just let your hair grow out as
They
long
sit in
as
a
it can.
cave and they didn't move for 100 years.
Oh, this is rather boring.
And then they turn into a skeleton, which I assume jumped up and danced.
Well, Charlotte Rampling was a babe in this. I've only seen her in stuff recently, you know, as a 70-plus-year-old woman. Very, very good actress. But I didn't like how she spent the entire movie hating Zed. And then at the very end, she's just like, oh, I'm in love with you. Let's be together forever. I was like,
Well, maybe she saw it as the only way that they could sort of live their life as normal people and continue the human race.
well, the only way she could survive. But they made it seem like she like had the hots for him at the very end. And it was like, no, she hated
You know what? She hated him from the beginning. Or she loved him from the beginning, sorry.
because
Classic Colin and his loved ones relationship.
during that scene where she shows him pornography and he's not turned on by it, but he gets a boner just by looking at her. I think that's what happened in that scene.
That was a great scene, by the way. They're like pointing at the flaccid penis diagram. And they're like, we don't understand how it goes from this.
Yeah,
to
me and Colin
this.
were
I was like,
laughing, like, oh, can you show this on television?
Yeah.
Speaking of what you can show on television, the second movie that we watched.
Based on a television show that none of us have seen, right?
Nope.
I may have seen like just clips from it, but I know of it. I know of the
me too.
Avengers.
It's the Avengers.
The Avengers.
Oh man, I love Iron Man.
Yeah,
I
the
love
Hulk.
Yeah, man. What like
My other favorite Avenger, Uma Thurman, and
John Steed.
I can't say his name.
Rafe
Joseph
Fiennes.
Rafe Fiennes.
Rafe. He's not a
Joseph
Wave.
Fiennes.
It's-
Wait a minute, Joseph. We hired Rafe.
I want to clear this up for anybody listening. It's
Rafe, he's a
it's
ghost.
written Ralph, but it's pronounced Rafe.
Yeah,
But you know,
So it sounds like people are calling him Ray Fiennes, but it's Rafe
oh yeah,
Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes. I've heard
yes.
that.
It's because he changed it after Wreck-It Ralph came out. He did not want to be associated with it.
No, he was supposed to be originally called Wreck-It Rafe.
Is that how they said it in London?
Yeah, and then they
Hello, it's Wreck-It Rafe.
yeah, and then it became like a movie set in the U.S. and they're like, oh, we gotta change it to Ralph.
Well,
and then
maybe
he's like,
it's
I'm
a
out.
Gaelic thing.
I believe so.
Yeah, but
It's
isn't
something
there
like
a British actor whose name is Rafe and it's spelled Rafe?
Rafe Spalls?
Yeah, the guy in Jurassic World too.
Yeah, and
He's
in
from a different part of England.
I think the Edgar Wright movies. He's one of
Yes,
the
he is.
Andes.
He's the one who's like, you got red on you in Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, and one of the Andes with the mustaches.
All right, so the Avengers, from the bristling enthusiasm in our voice, you can tell how
boy.
much we enjoyed it.
Well, this is a weird one because I remember seeing the trailer, in what did it come 94?
98.
98.
later.
Oh my god.
Yeah, even later.
And were you like super excited when you saw the trailer?
I was just like,
I can't wait.
I was like, wow, this looks kind of cool. And, I was vaguely aware of the TV show. I kind of liked a lot of British shows at that point, like Doctor Who and The Prisoner. and
That
all
was
this sort of stuff.
Colin's like British period. He's like, I got my BBC VHS tapes.
Yeah, I did. I wore like a Doctor Who scarf everywhere. It was like 35 feet long.
Oh boy.
No, I didn't.
And so, did you see it or did you skip it?
No, I skipped it because all the reviews came out and they were terrible. So I really didn't know anything about it other than it was awful. And I've always seen it on people's, top 10 worst movies of all time, blah, blah, blah. It was a huge financial bomb.
The cover of Rafe Fiennes and Uma Thurman in her cat suit was on the back of every comic book, I guess around 98 when it came out.
Yeah, that poster was everywhere. It was on every bus, every
So
streetcar.
that's where they put their advertising into children's comic books.
I mean,
Yeah.
the two ads that you saw on the back of every comic book was The Avengers and Cool World.
Cool World. We should do that for the podcast.
Another movie that nobody saw.
Yep, a little too adult, just like The Avengers. And by adult, I mean confusing, and I have no idea what's going on.
Very, very
Boring.
dull.
This is a movie movie that famously, the original cut was 150 minutes long, and the studio panicked and they cut it down to 90 minutes, rendering it pretty incomprehensible.
Yeah, it kind of starts out, and I got to say, like, in the first 10 minutes, I was kind of digging it. Like, the style, just the way it's shot, and the kind of tone. You know,
Well, it starts with a really fun scene where Ralph Fiennes.
Oh, my God.
I think it's Fiennes.
Yes, it's Rafe Fiennes.
Rafe Fiend. If he's a Wraith, he's probably
Jesus
a fiend
Christ.
as well.
Oh, my God.
He walks through like a little English village,
Yeah.
and the joke is that everyone is like a villain that attacks him, and he has to find a clever way to get around it.
They're out to kill him. It turns out to be like a training sequence. You know, he's training. He works at the Ministry
Of Magic.
It's kind
You missed the baby. You missed the blind man.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
There's like a milkman and he just breaks some bottles and starts coming at him.
with the broken glass.
If the movie had more of that instead of nothing.
Yeah, you know, and I was really liking it. And I'm like, you know, maybe this got a bad rap, and
Yeah.
we're kind of rediscovering this movie.
A
and-
real Hudson Hawk.
Yeah. Ooh, this is no Hudson Hawk.
No.
This is more like Hudson shit.
Wow. Put it on the poster. So, yeah, Uma Thurman gets introduced, and we had no idea who she was. We had no idea what the thread of the movie is. Because they're British, they're very nonplussed about everything, so they just kind of
Yeah.
like don't react.
They're just unaffected. He's very kind of everyone's laissez-faire about
And
everything.
That's supposed to be funny.
No,
There's
They're
supposed to
British.
be like quips between both of them, and it
Yeah.
feels like they were CG'd in and they were just playing to no one.
Yeah, it's
because
just
no
really,
chemistry.
just zero chemistry.
Yeah, like near the beginning of the movie, the two leads have like a sword fight, and they're like being polite and saying like, "Oh, I'd go do this," and blah. And they're just it's like we're having a conversation, but we're sword fighting, and so it's supposed to be sexy, but they just have no chemistry.
And that was like the most action we'll see in this movie for the next like 40 minutes or so. Like nothing
well,
happens.
Hey, they fight giant CG wasps. I said, what does that have to do with anything?
What does any scene have to do with anything in this movie?
But it's not crazy enough. That's the
No.
issue. Like, it's not Batman and Robin style.
Oh,
like,
It's not
wish.
funny enough.
no.
I never thought I'd be pining for Batman and Robin.
Well, we couldn't stop thinking about it because of Uma Thurman,
Yeah,
and
so
then
this
there's all this ice stuff that happens later, which is basically the plot that Mr. Freeze did happens at the end of this movie.
We discovered that Batman and Robin came out before this, right?
1 year before.
And April was like,
Yeah.
Uma Thurman took on the Avengers. She's like, look, want to get that Batman and
Yeah.
Robin stuff behind me. Never again.
And really, like, she's much more well known for that. I mean, I think most people, even now, have not seen this movie.
No, this is
Nor
one of those
should
ones
they.
that is thankfully completely forgettable, and it's, you know, easy to see why.
Like, I had heard of it, but I don't even remember, like, it coming out.
I feel
Yeah.
like Guy Pearce in Memento right now. I'm like, hold on to it so you can talk about it a
No,
little
I can
bit.
barely remember
that-
what
give me a
happened.
That explains your Avengers tattoo that you've got on your shoulder.
I'll be Avenger. It's like, you've seen this movie. Don't watch it again.
I love the Avengers. Well, who's the guy in the bowler hat?
Yeah, that's right.
So
the
remember,
umbrella.
don't forget Sean Connery, you guys. The reason we watched this movie.
No, the reason we watched this movie is Justin.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, I want, we should watch League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And I went, no, Colin probably worked on that movie. He probably doesn't like
Well,
it.
it did suck.
Well, like, we don't always have to do like a theme movie, but it does kind of help, like, or a theme podcast.
Yeah.
But it does
Yeah.
kind of help, like, tie it together. And wasn't Avengers on like your shelf of movies for us
No,
to do?
it was another film that we'll do in a future episode. Yeah, Avengers. I'm like, can't wait to take this Blu-ray off the shelf that I bought, I assume, in my Avenger blackout. I have like 10 copies.
I thought maybe you had it set aside.
I honestly thought I was talking to a friend today, and we watched the trailer at work. We were kind of like, oh my God. And then
And your hair was blown back like
yeah,
the guy in the CD ad.
and she's like, well, how are you watching this? And I said, oh, I assume Justin's bringing a Blu-ray. Like he's got a copy of everything.
This is
No.
not on Blu-ray.
I had never seen it, and well, it is available on iTunes. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Sean Connery. He seems sleepy, but himself at the same time.
He
Yeah.
plays like a freaky plant guy who ends
Sir-
up controlling the weather.
Sir August de Winter.
His name?
That's his name.
Like, there's one plot point that
Like a rapper.
we were staring. What?
August De Winter, yo.
A knighted rapper.
Oh man! Remember that Martin Lawrence film where he goes back in time?
Oh,
Black Knight.
Black Knight. That's right.
oh God.
I remember I was in high school and someone said that's my favorite movie of all time, and I went, "What?"
It's nice to meet you. My name's Justin.
It's me. I'm looking in the mirror.
I did mention to someone a couple months ago that, I have tickets to see Avengers, and she goes, like the Ray Fiennes Uma Thurman movies?
No.
She was making a joke, but the point is, people do know this movie.
How often has she made that joke?
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
come with the car?
It was the first time I met this person.
Wait, were you buying a movie ticket? You're like,
No.
one for Avengers, please. And they're like, the
man.
Ray Fiennes.
No, April turned around in the
Uma
line.
Thurman movie.
April turned around in the ticket line, and it was like this 80-year-old lady she was talking to.
Watched it live on television.
Oh, the one based on my favorite TV show.
It's me. I was the actor in it. And for some reason, I'm a witch.
The original Mrs. Peel.
Yeah.
I don't remember what her name is.
Emma Peel.
Yes, no, but the actor's name.
Oh, hold on, cut this pause out. Dame Diana Rigg.
Diana Rigg, yeah.
Yeah, who you might know from the episode of Extras where Harry Potter was in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a role that was obviously meant to be played by her in this movie that it's not her.
Oh, she probably.
the old
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
The other character in the original Avengers plays an invisible man.
Yeah, Patrick McNee.
Which is so out of character with the rest of the film.
Yeah, speaking of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, it just made us pine for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, this movie was a little wackier.
Well, maybe he couldn't come to set, so they're like, well, let's do an Invisible Man
I
gag.
think he was 93 years old or something
Yeah.
like that. Like he was
So he
very
maybe
old.
couldn't, you
Yeah,
know?
that's the age Mickey Rooney was when he passed away.
Very
R.I.P.
sad.
I mean, this film ends with like two giant action climaxes. We were so bored. These characters are getting knocked out so often in this film.
It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
Both of them.
Okay, so my favorite part, I gotta get through this, is there's a bunch of bear suits. Okay, that's it. That's my favorite part.
I think that's the one thing that everybody would bring up when you think of this movie, and like all the reviews would mention, like there's this scene with everyone's wearing wacky bear suits for some
Yeah.
reason.
It's the one thing I remembered.
They're furries.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like as wacky as it gets.
Yeah.
That's like Eddie Izzard and Uma Thurman have a fight in like the lamest CG backdrop.
Eddie Izzard speaking, he's got a cool look to him. Like everything kind of has
Mud
this,
job.
yeah, this like 60s mod look, even though it's present day. I think he says one word.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
the joke. Is he
Yeah.
says one
That he
word.
doesn't talk. But there is 3 actors from Harry Potter in this, which I was expecting there to be more.
Yeah.
So that's your favorite part, April?
No, I actually like the CGI bees, which were not CGI for about half the time.
Half is being generous.
Yeah, I'd say for like maybe 6 shots.
We were kind of making fun of it because there were some shots where it looked really bad, but I actually thought it looked pretty good. And anytime that it was practical, it looked good. We should look up who did the special effects.
Oh my God, Colin Cunningham. He like raises his arm and has an Avengers tattoo.
But when
No,
we
it's
say
like
bees,
it's
they're
like Stranger
huge.
Things. It's all the goosebumps in the back of my neck.
I don't know if yeah.
Anytime,
Stop reaching up and touching it
anytime
already.
someone mentions a movie I worked on,
Have you seen that Black Mirror episode with the mechanical bees? Well, it's not
Yeah.
like that. They're huge. They're giant. They're like the size of a laptop or bigger.
Yeah,
and they're flying around.
I've seen worse, but you have to realize this was 98.
I think it looks pretty good for 98.
I liked how April looked around the room and she's like, size of. And the only thing in her vision, she's like, size of Justin? No, too big.
What were they about this? A pillow,
laptop
maybe? I
button.
don't know. Bigger than an iPad.
An ice cube.
I mean, whoever has a Google search for, a Google alert for the CGI bees in the Avengers looks good, will be very happy to hear this, April.
Yeah, CGI and practical, because like I said, there was a lot of practicals in there. When it fell on the ground at the end, and they were like on their car, and there were some explosions, but they were all lame.
Yeah, it's all lame. Like
Yeah.
the movie ends with like a big sword fight in like a water tank, and it's a huge set. And we were like,
I gotta say, I gotta say my favorite thing was again probably going to be the production design, costumes. I think as far as they kind of captured this cool 60s mod tone without it being obnoxious. I wish the movie had kind of, we were saying the sword fight at the end in this sort of gigantic set. It's really, really big. Cool production design. Just, you really don't care at that
Yeah.
point. Like nothing in this movie.
Well, maybe it's because they shot it like a modern day action movie. It didn't have any kind of campy, moddy anything. it was bland.
They could have pushed it a bit more, and I think like the costumes definitely had that feel. There was only certain sets that kind of had that, vibe.
Yeah, he should have had like a phone in his shoe or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I do like when they leave Jim Broadbent, who's in a wheelchair, toppled over in the snow, and he's like, "Don't worry about me. Go save Uma Thurman." It's like, no, right me, lift me up and get me on my wheels, and then I won't just be lying in the snow for the climax
he's lying
of the
face
movie.
first in a pile of like freezing
Smoking
snow.
a cigarette because they're so casual about things. That's
Well,
what's supposed to be
like,
funny.
a miniature of Big Ben explodes, and we're like, meh.
Yeah, I know.
They destroy Big Ben.
It just wore us down. I do think like Uma Thurman and Ray Fiennes. I was going to say fucking never mind. Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes, I like, but it's just he's
Joseph.
He's doing a fine job, but there's
also
really
like
nothing.
Joseph.
There's nothing in the script to for them to work with.
No.
Remember when we so I watched these like GQ videos, which is a lot like that video we watched like an hour ago, where they talk about like the roles that they made me famous, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of interesting ones. A lot of them are really good, and the Ray Fiennes one, Ray Fiennes was so boring, and I was so disappointed because I was like, yes, I can't wait to hear him talk about all these roles that I've seen him play, and he was just like so bland and not interesting, and he didn't have anything interesting to say, and like maybe he wasn't feeling well, I understand, but it was just like he didn't have anything interesting
All his
to
classic
say.
roles from The English Patient, The Avengers, Red Dragon.
Harry
Yeah.
Potter. I don't think he talked about the Avengers,
Which is
They don't go through
weird
every
because
role.
I got to say I think he's a fantastic actor.
Me
I think
too.
he's-
I love
No
him.
Joseph.
I don't think I've seen Joseph in anything.
Shakespeare in Love.
Never seen it. Never
Did
seen
you
it.
see Elizabeth?
Nope.
He was in that. It came out the same year, I think, and he played practically the same
did you
character.
see the unreleased TV episode where he played Michael Jackson?
Oh Jesus Christ!
Whoa! I need to see that.
Yeah, that was
never
shut down.
released.
Never released.
My mic is attacking me.
No, your
We
pop
have mic
stopper.
issues.
Yeah,
I-
he's trying to lighten things up.
I can't think of anything else Joseph Fiennes was in. He was in that like sleazy, sexy movie with Heather Graham that we watched the trailer for.
Killing Me Softly.
I've seen it. It's really bad.
He was also in that Jesus movie where he plays the guard that has to investigate CSI style. It's called Risen.
What?
Yeah, that Jesus is Born or Not, directed by the director of Waterworld, Kevin
Interesting.
Reynolds.
Oh my God! Are you
Not
kidding?
very good. Yeah.
Really? You don't say.
All
Yeah,
right.
man. There is nothing in this movie.
Nope.
Sean Connery is lifted up into the air by a lightning bolt, and it was still boring.
Yeah, he
God.
does not gain any powers when he's struck by lightning.
The thing about this, yeah, which I wish that would happen, but the thing about this movie is Sean Connery walks into the UN or whatever it is. This is probably an hour into the movie or maybe even more. And then he's like, this is my grand plan. I'm going to, I can control the weather. I'm going to freeze everybody and drown them unless you pay me money. It's like, that should be in your first act. The villain should
We
say,
forgot to mention there's two Uma Thurmans. That's what the whole.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the whole first half of the movie is about. How are there two Mrs. Peels?
Even
And
though
it leads
that-
to nothing.
We only figured out that we're clones by me reading the IMDb description.
yeah, it's like she comes and goes from the movie. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
Is it even explained?
Because we don't know or care who she is. So the fact that there's two of her, it's like it's supposed to be shocking to us, but it wasn't because we didn't care.
Yeah. Just like she didn't care about the accent she was trying to pull off.
No, it kind
Yeah.
of comes and goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they do drink tea in a moving cart.
Yep.
Hey,
They drink tea 6 times in this movie.
they're English. And
Thanks,
they keep,
IMDb trivia.
Yeah, they keep mentioning it. Oh, no, that was me that entered that on IMDb trivia.
Are you an IMDb trivia head?
Yeah.
While we were watching it.
Yeah. It's like 1,
2, 3.
Yeah, you guys were talking. I'm like, shut up. 2, 3, 4.
Tea.
I mean, people don't know that Colin loves tea.
Oh my God, I drink it all the time.
His middle name is little name is Colin T. Cunningham, and the T stands for tea.
I don't mind tea. Hey, what's your favorite tea flavor, you guys?
Ah,
We're
Tea-cast.
we're really, we're
It's
really
a Tea-cast and
scraping-
Tea-dot.
Really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I like Earl Grey. I do.
The T or the Earl?
Oh, come on, guys. Let's wrap this
It's
up.
the gray.
I put the gun on the table. Let's end this, please.
All right, well, obviously we loved Zardoz, and I would totally recommend everybody to buy it. We watched a really, really good copy.
Yeah, it was a good
Maybe
transfer.
the best copy out there. I don't know.
Well, it's TCAS, not coffee.
What was the Blu-ray distribution company?
Twilight Time. It's a limited edition, so it probably goes for about $50 if you want to pick it up
I borrowed it, but it's out there. Like it's on.
You can probably rent it on iTunes. I never checked.
Probably.
I'm sure you.
It's
could.
got to be around, man. This is a cult classic. This is a bad movie classic.
Yeah,
which it's not.
everybody give it a chance. If you like weird sci-fi concepts, from the 1970s that have philosophy and fantasy and mostly naked Sean Connery in it.
Whoa, naked Sean Connery.
He's-
You have
he's
an
not-
uncut Blu-ray?
Oh yeah,
Uncut is right.
Well,
Sean Connery.
the Blu-ray wasn't the only thing that was uncut.
And after that, check out John Boorman's other malign sequel or film.
Oh,
Exorcist
Heretic.
2, The Heretic.
That's
The Heretic.
something we should maybe do on the podcast.
Yeah, I gotta check that out.
But you know what? This is my first John Boorman movie. Should I watch?
Point Blank.
Okay.
Oh,
I
Point
wasn't
Blank
gonna
is
say. I've never
great.
even heard of that one.
Yeah, Point Blank is Lee Marvin. Really good. He also did Excalibur.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Excalibur is another one my dad really wants me to watch, which it sounds good. I looked at the cast list and everything. I was like,
Yeah, it's got everybody in it.
Deliverance, is that worth watching?
It's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
really
good.
like
It's
it.
a famous,
It
incredibly
is,
famous
yeah.
movie.
People don't talk about that Excalibur actually kickstarted the sword and sorcery genre in the
Oh.
80s. That's what led to Conan and Beastmaster.
Oh,
and
cool.
Oh, nice.
The Sword and the
Sword and
Sorcerer.
Sorcerer.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, and don't watch Avengers. I mean,
Don't waste your time.
The Avengers. We mentioned some things. Because we're not fans of the show, I have no idea if it's faithful to the show. I'm guessing not. But if you, I guess, were a fan of the original 1960s version and you want to check it out, maybe you get something out of it.
Yeah, the show ran for like 8 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, so this movie never got a sequel, which tells you something.
But yeah, so check it out if you want to. And if you want to email us, we're at nosuchthingasabadmovie@gmail.com. And you can tweet at us at nosuchthingpod. And we have a Patreon at patreon.com/No Such Thing as a Bad Movie, I believe. And we just released a extra Q&A episode last week, which was an hour-long bonus content Q&A, because we did a Q&A episode last week, and then we talked a little more about our personal lives on the Patreon Q&A. So sign up for that if you want to know how we came to be where we are today.
My mother met my father. They fell deeply in love, and then
I killed myself, and Zardoz reconstructed me.
$5 a month if you're interested in that.
you can find me at DeClueJ on Twitter, Justin DeClue on Letterboxd, every week at the Important Cinema Club podcast. And yep, that's pretty much it. Colin?
I'm at Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA, on Twitter, and I believe Instagram might be the same. I don't know.
Snapchat?
I don't have my notes in front of me, so I don't know.
no.
I can't double check my Instagram.
We all love Sean Connery, and I wish him a happy 89th birthday this year.
Is he 89?
He's turning 89 this year. I
Wait,
believe.
April, how can people follow you on Twitter?
Oh, right. I'm at April at Mansky.
There you go.
How can people follow Sean Connery on Twitter?
Hey, don't we have a Twitter as well?
Yeah, I mentioned the No Such Thing pod Twitter.
Oh, God. I'm losing my mind. Thank
Yeah,
you,
it's like-
Avengers.
it's like, oh,
the
Jesus.
Avengers killed us.
It's like sucked
yeah.
all the energy out of us.
Anyway,
Oh God, it did. I was only joking, but it really did.
well, it's been fun. We love Sean Connery. I'm April at Mansky.
Famous woman slapper Sean Connery.
Yeah. Oh
God.
God, I forgot. Well, I'm April at Mansky.
I'm Justin the Glue.
And I'm Colin Cunningham.
And remember, there's no such thing as a bad movie.
And also remember, guns are good. The penis is
Or
evil.
evil.
That's right. That's right, Colin and Justin.
Yep. I'm snipping it off right now.